been promoted to supervisor. Now welcome to that peculiar purgatory where you've got the fancy new title, but everyone's still deciding if you've actually earned it. That new supervisor smell is a delightful cocktail of excitement, imposter syndrome, and the unmistakable aroma of being quietly judged by everyone who now reports to you. I'm Emily Haverkamp, and I have over 15 years in the workplace, with over 5 as a manager. I've learned that earning trust as a new supervisor isn't about grand heroic gestures or magically transforming into that image in your head of this stereotypical C-suite executive. It's about those small, consistent actions that slowly but surely convince your team you're not going to ruin everything. The trust clock starts ticking the moment your promotion is announced, not when you finally feel ready for it. Which, spoiler alert, you may never be. Research from the Harvard Business Review found that 85% of impressions about a new supervisor's trustworthiness solidify within the first 2 weeks. 2 weeks? While you're still out trying to update your email signature without looking too eager, your team has been already forming lasting judgments about whether you're someone they can trust. Even more compelling, teams that trust their supervisors show 32% higher productivity and 41% stronger engagement. This isn't just about warm, fuzzy feelings. It's about actual results. But no pressure or anything, guys. The stakes are high. But here's the good news. Building trust, it's not about being perfect. Trust me on this. I've made enough mistakes to write a book called What Not to Do, a comprehensive guide. Sadly, I have not written it yet, so there's no link in the notes. It's about being deliberately authentic and strategically consistent in ways that matter most to your team. I've worked with new supervisors over the years and experienced my own spectacular learning experiences, and I've identified 4 pillars that consistently separate those who earn trust from, well, those who don't. First, you want to aspire to competence without perfection. Here's my biggest tip. Check your perfectionism at the door, because if you try to keep it as a supervisor, you're going to go crazy. Your team needs to know you can do the job, but here's the paradox. Pretending to know everything actually damages trust more than acknowledging your limitations. I learned this one the hard way with a side order of humiliation. A fascinating study from Stanford showed that supervisors who appropriately acknowledged their growth were rated 34% more trustworthy than those who projected comprehensive expertise. It turns out humans can smell inauthenticity from a mile away. When faced with questions you can't answer, simply say, "I don't know, but I'll find out tomorrow." But here's the key. You need to actually find out tomorrow and communicate that. You need to follow through. This builds more trust than attempting to bluff your way through. Don't try to fake it till you make it. So, if I could tattoo a piece of advice on the forehead of every new supervisor, painlessly and with their consent, of course, it would be this. Small promises kept build more trust than big promises made. A study of leadership transitions revealed that teams judge new supervisors primarily on what researchers call commitment consistency. Do what you say you'll do. And do it when you say you'll do it. This is a revolutionary concept, I know. But try keeping a simple tracking document of every commitment that you make, no matter how small. Start meetings on time. Respond to emails when promised. Address issues when you said you would. For emails and requests that require research, try responding with, "I've received this, and we'll get you an answer by Thursday." Then you need to deliver it by Wednesday. Consistently exceeding small expectations builds tremendous credibility. It's like relationship magic, but with spreadsheets. Next, the third pillar is maintaining a fair process. Here is one truth that transformed my understanding of leadership. Teams care more about how decisions are made than what the actual final decision actually is. Just mind blown. Research from organizational psychology shows that when supervisors establish transparent decision-making processes, team trust increases by 28%, even when you make unpopular decisions. People can handle not getting their way, but what they can't handle is feeling like the game was rigged all along and that they were never heard. When making difficult decisions, explain the process you used. This process transparency dramatically increases perceived fairness. And in the workplace, perceived fairness is almost as important as actual fairness. The fourth pillar is establishing appropriate boundaries. This might surprise you, but trust requires appropriate boundaries. You might decide to go in as the opposite of that reality show contestant that says, "I'm not here to make friends," and you're actually thinking, "I'm here to make friends with everyone." But research shows that this is not the path to trust. Research actually suggests, and my personal experience confirms it with cringeworthy memories I'm still working through, that trying to be buddy-buddy with everyone in your team is going to actually decrease your credibility. Try addressing changing relationships directly, especially if you've just been promoted from within. You need to set clear expectations about when you're available and when you're not. Be friendly and approachable during work hours, but maintain appropriate professional distance. Avoid situations where you may need to show favoritism, like after-hour social gatherings with only certain team members. Trust me, nothing will tank your credibility faster than becoming known as the supervisor who has favorites. And I'm also going to let you in on a little secret. It's now actually a little bit awkward when you show up at the happy hours, but nobody's going to want to tell you. Well, here's the tactical part. The specific actions that build trust fastest as a new supervisor. There's no theory here, just practical approaches that actually work in the real world, where we all live. So tactic 1. You need to take a listening tour. I know this sounds a little bit like a political thing, but it's not. This is really important. Listening is your most effective move. You don't need to talk. You need to listen. I know this is very difficult for some of us who believe we became a supervisor so that we can share all our brilliant ideas and everyone should actually just do what we say. But research from MIT's Leadership Center showed that supervisors who spent 70% of their initial interactions listening rather than talking were rated significantly more trustworthy. So here's what you can do. Schedule 15 to 30-minute meetings with each team member during your first week. So during these conversations, you should take visible notes. You need to identify patterns and quick wins. Then crucially, follow up on what you've heard. This shows that you're listening to your team and you actually care, and this wasn't just a performative exercise in pretending to care. After the meeting, send a brief email summarizing the key themes you heard without attributing specific comments to the individuals, and then you outline your initial response plan. This demonstrates both attentiveness and action orientation. Plus, it creates documentation for later when someone inevitably claims, "Nobody ever asked about that problem." "Oh, yes, they did, buddy. It's in the email from March 12th. Then tactic 2, an expectation exchange. One of the biggest trust killers for new supervisors is misaligned expectations. You think you're being reasonable, but your team, they think you're being demanding. You think you're providing space. They think you're being absent. You think your jokes are hilarious. They're updating their resumes. Create a simple 2-column document. What can you expect from me? And what I need from them. Include items like communication preferences, decision-making approaches, and performance standards. Share this in a team meeting, inviting discussion and refinement. Revisit this document quarterly to ensure expectations remain aligned as your team evolves, because the only constant in organizations is change. Well, that and that perpetually broken printer on the 3rd floor. Tactic 3, decisive action on team priorities. While listening is crucial, teams also need to see that their new supervisor can actually take action. The key is focusing first on team-identified priorities rather than bringing your own agenda. This again is a revolutionary concept. Sometimes, the people doing the work daily know what needs fixing better than the person who just arrived. So after your listening tour, Identify one common theme that multiple people mentioned. And give credit to the team for identifying the need. This builds trust while simultaneously making you look good. A rare win-win in the workplace wilderness. One note. We've talked about the importance of building trust early. But what do you do if you screw something up? Is all lost? You're going to make mistakes as a new supervisor. Not might. You will. Research shows your response to those early errors has 3 to 5 times more impact on trust than the mistakes themselves. So it's comforting only after you've recovered from the initial mortification. But when you do make a mistake, and again, you will, acknowledge it promptly and directly. Say something like, I made an error in scheduling that created problems for the team. You need to take appropriate responsibility, but without excessive self-criticism. Say, this happened because I didn't check the training calendar, not because anyone gave me incorrect information. Next, you need to focus on solutions rather than giving a lengthy explanation. That makes you seem defensive. Use the moment to model the candor that you want from your team. Tell them, I expect this level of transparency from you when you make mistakes. Because here's one thing you absolutely do not want from your team. For them to cover anything up, because that's going to create one of your biggest messes. So based on the research and some hard-earned personal wisdom, I've formed a 30-day action plan to gain trust. I've included a link in the notes, but here's the first week as a preview for you. So the first week is what we've talked about. Listen and learn. You need to complete your individual meetings. You need to identify patterns for quick wins, establish consistent communication rhythms, and address one visible team priority. This structured approach helps new supervisors build in 30 days the trust it typically takes 3 to 6 months to establish. If you're interested, again, the link's in the notes, and you can have the full guide. Consider it your express lane to not waking up with stress dreams about work every night. Earning trust as a new supervisor, it isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentionally consistent in ways that matter to your team. It's about demonstrating competence without claiming perfection, following through on commitments, establishing fair processes, it's setting appropriate boundaries. Most importantly, it's about approaching leadership as a service to your team rather than an accomplishment for yourself. What's been your experience of building trust as a new supervisor? Share in the comments. I'd love to continue this conversation. Remember, trust isn't given with the title. It's earned through consistent, authentic leadership. And the good news? That's something completely within your control. Unlike the office thermostat that want coworkers' questionable lunch choices or pretty much anything else you're going to face in the workplace.